Welcome to First Things First. I'm Brooke and my pronouns are she and her.
I'm Matty Mills, my pronouns are he and him. And before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge the custodians of the land on which we record. And for me today, that's the Gadigal People of the Eora Nation.
And for me, it's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Let's get into it.
We were talking about our acting careers and how we've really fallen in love with the form of acting, and obviously it's new to you. I feel like I'm having this moment of reinvesting in that craft for me.
Yeah.
But I think maybe you've inspired me as well.
Oh.
You're in acting school. I feel like those were, the formative years of my adulthood.
I love that. But you find out who you are through that, don't you? The journey that I've been on. Not that
Self-discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think everyone should do an acting course in their life. Like, whether, you know how you do leadership courses and, community
Cultural
building.
safety.
Exactly. I feel like you should do a drama/acting/voice intensive, because I feel like I've just come out of it like as such a better person, better perspective, less ego and less afraid of just jumping and doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you because I know exactly what that experience is like. I remember those first few months of acting school, just like my mind being blown with
much information.
Just so much information, but also like little tips and tricks on how to be confident out in the world.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
makes you such a better person in the world, not just as an actor, in the world.
Acting is actually understanding the human condition. It really is. It's understanding how people react. It's understanding how people listen.
Yeah.
It's more than just getting up there and putting on a show.
You're not actually technically playing, you're putting on a hat or you're being someone else, but you're not technically, you're pretty much finding the character that lives within you, if that makes sense. Like, I realized that the craft is not technically, you're changing a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
But you're not changing too much, if that makes sense. So,
well, for it to be truth, you have to find a piece of yourself, or you have to find a commonality.
Yeah.
It's like even when you play someone who is so evil and dark, you have to find their humanity so that you can play it from a truthful point of view.
Exactly.
You have to understand, not completely justify their experience, but you have to have some sort of level of understanding or empathy for your character in that situation. So you have to sort of figure out how to be comfortable with many different personalities.
You can't judge your character because you're playing
judgment.
it. Yeah, you can't judge your character from the get-go because you're going to be disconnected. So you're not going to be able to play them. The last two characters I've played, I played Connie in the play The Effect, which she was falling in love in an antidepressant trial. Okay. And the linkage and the connections that I made was, I've been in love. And that love that it's sort of forbidden, but it's unknown. Like, I've been in that situation before, so I was able to place myself there. But have I been in an antidepressant trial? No. But I have taken antidepressants, and I have also... And, these antidepressants in the play were making the characters feel like they were on speed. Have I ever been on speed? No, but I have had a sugar rush. So it's like, you got to find the linkage and
Let me ask you something. When you play a character, do you prefer the character to be far from who you are in terms of their experience and their character traits and their story? Or do you prefer it to be someone who you can really relate to?
To be fair, I've done both in school, and I'm still figuring that out because I found it much easier to jump in a character that was far from me rather than close to me, which is a very common feeling, I think. Yeah. It kind of can hit a bit too close to home, and it might have some bit of reality, bit of truth telling in it. Whereas when I first started acting and I played a character called Georgie in Spiked Heels, she was really loud, and I'm not really loud as a person. Maybe I can be when I'm with my friends. There's moments in my life where I can do that, but it was a bit far from who I am in my daily life. So it was actually easier to do that because it was opposite of what I am, which is good. There was some connections. But I found that easier than playing Connie per se, which she was more subtle, a bit more relaxed, a bit more calm.
I feel like when you're in an audition or if you have to put on put in a tape and the person you're working with says, just do it how you would do it. I always find that hard because I think I don't want to do it how I would do it as Matt. I want to do it how I feel like this character that I'm building in my head would do it. And I hate when they say, be more like yourself. It's like, that actually for me is really hard. It's hard for me to bring the character to sort of my level of experience or my mannerisms. I'd rather create like a character and shape it out, because I feel like the subtlety is the hard part. It's the challenge. And I feel like only great fucking actors get there.
Yeah, where I find it really hard to be over and above.
Okay.
So it's
that's
funny.
my like. Give
That's
me a different voice. Give me a pair of high heels. Give me a backpack. Like, I want props. I want everything to assist me to get to like that next level of character. I mean, I can do the subtle stuff, but I find it's taxing that happens on your emotional self. It's like you really have to go there, and I find that difficult. I've only ever had one experience where I felt outside of my body on stage, and I was talking to Leah Purcell about it, and she said, that won't happen often. She said, that will only happen to you a few times in your career, and it was the night she saw me on stage. So I was like, okay, I'm glad it happened there. And that experience is when you feel like you're not even operating. It's actually just coming out free-flowing, and you're just watching it happen.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
But you feel so empowered. You come off stage and you're like, fuck, what even happened? Because you were so in it that it was like autopilot.
Truly. Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I explained it to her, and she was like, that will only happen a few times in your career. That's happened to me maybe 3 or 4 times. I'm like, wow, okay. It happened the night she was there.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's actually one of the people that inspired me to get into acting, actually. And she...
What do you love about her?
There's this warmth that she has on screen and in person, now meeting her, that is so inviting and so intriguing. She has this energy where it's very, like, whatever character she has played has been, very strong characters, by the way, like very deep thinking kind of characters. And I really like that.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like, I loved her in The Drover's Wife.
Yes.
She didn't have to say much, but she said a lot, if that makes sense. And I think that's the best type of acting, where there's not even a lot of...
Do you know she directed herself in that?
I know. And she's directed so many other things, like The 12 that I'm watching at the moment. I just finished watching High Country that she was in and loved it.
Okay.
Loved it.
It's slow burn, right?
Slow burn, for sure.
Slow burn,
yeah.
Okay. Because I started it.
It lost me for a bit, yeah.
My friend directed it, Beck Cole. She's a First Nations director. She directed that. She also wrote and directed Wentworth with Leah in it. So when she worked with Leah in Wentworth, she was already in the pre-production for High Country, and she was like, amazing. I'm going to cast Leah. They, really collaborated on the character that Leah's playing in High Country.
Yeah, wow.
But they're 2 First Nations females, at the helm of acting in this and directing in this country. It's pretty cool. But when I started watching it, I must admit, a slow burn, if I'm not in that headspace to really sit down and let the pressures of the world go and just focus in on it, I can't get there. So I need to start it again at another point.
I honestly don't even think overthink it, because I think you can get the story without it. You just probably miss bits, and you probably might want to rewatch it. But that's what I did as well. Like, if I put it on and I lost interest, when I was back at that moment, I just restarted it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So the landscape plays a big part in it, right?
It does.
The landscape is a character in itself.
Kind of, yeah, pretty much. There's, it's like that spirit, that land, the country. But there's so much more to it. Obviously, they're trying to figure out who killed who and et cetera. Right. So, it, if you're interested in true crime, which is really up my alley, then you'll love it. But don't overthink it, because I think come in and out of it is fine. I did that with a few episodes, but I still get the storyline, which makes sense. Yeah,
and she's compelling. Like, whenever she was on the screen, I definitely was just fixated because she's so powerful. I loved her in Wentworth because her character came in and was like this force of energy at the end of a decade-long series.
Yeah,
and she came in, I think, for the last 3 seasons, and it was just like a rocket in this ship of Wentworth, and I felt like she just recaptured the audience because she's so convincing, but also the character she played was a good person that had to do bad things.
Well, it was kind of how B started. Do you remember when Rip Wentworth started? Like B was that character, and then she died off.
Yes.
Killed off, died off.
I want Wentworth to come back.
Same. I've got to I'm going to rewatch it one day, but
I need to as well.
I have realised that since doing acting, though, I watch shows more analytical now.
Oh, it's so
I'm
annoying.
Like, I know, it really is.
It's annoying because you're also thinking about, I think because I've been on big sets where I've seen cameras I'm totally thinking about what's behind the lens, you know? Like I'm thinking, this is annoying. I'm thinking, okay, they're probably called cut there. Like it's just annoying.
Yeah. You know, now the only shitty thing TV that I can watch where it's like I can just watch it for what it is, even though reality. I still know it's reality, and I'm like, I hate that. Like fucking Fuckboy Island is coming back. Love that. Yeah.
Are you watching it?
I'm gonna watch it just for some shitty TV.
I haven't really watched that one, but I've watched recently on Netflix Perfect Match.
Oh yes, like
and I love it. Except Harry Jowsey, he needs to be slapped in the mouth.
I know.
What is
he's
this
putting
pink dick
Australian?
privilege?
I know.
Oh,
he's putting Australia shitty.
This man needs to go home, get off the tit, and like wipe his own ass.
Yeah.
And seriously, like do some work on himself instead of just going on these reality shows, mind fucking all these women, and then acting like the victim.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Harry Jowsey, like seriously, mate.
Nah, he needs to sort his shit out. I know. I watched that and I was like, I can't. He pains me. I wish he would
just go home. Go home.
Yeah.
Go home to wherever your home is. Relax. Have some time with your family. Just like feel the real world instead of this reality shit. Because he looks like a depressed, sad human being.
He just is. I think he's just a narcissist, and I think he literally thinks his shit doesn't stink. Like I mean that. Like if you watch every single thing that he does in the shows,
how empowered is Jess though?
Yeah,
how empowered was Jess when she let him down? I was like, this is the perfect ending to this series that I needed. The way that she was like, the love I have for myself is way more than I have for you. The love that I have for my daughter.
Yeah.
And then she was like, I want to find an amazing man and you are not that.
You ain't it. Because he fucking
my God.
went for her straight away thinking that she would fall for him.
And you know what? She is a 10 in all aspects. Okay, I don't want to rate women. She is amazing in all aspects. Like she definitely is like confident, beautiful, intelligent, all the things that he would want in a woman, but he doesn't deserve.
No, he doesn't deserve her. Yeah. I agree. What kind of example is she setting for her daughter if she's going to end up with a fucking narcissist prick like that?
She set the perfect example for women out there when they come head to head with Harry. Suck him in and let him down. Seriously.
Tell him how you really feel.
Oh, he boils my blood because he thinks he's
going to be a big shot. He thinks he's going to be an actor. You wish, brother. You wish. Oh, actually, funny enough, I have currently I'm working on my brand stuff with acting school, right?
Yes.
And had to ask you a few questions, like how do you perceive me? What roles do you see me in? I asked the question and I said, does reality TV affect becoming an actor? And my branding teacher actually said, yeah, it can. If you've been casted or like been really horrible on reality TV, then sometimes it can affect your work into becoming an actor. And I was like,
you know why
no.
that is? Did she tell you why?
No, he.
Okay, well, I feel like the reason for that is that people who go on reality TV want fame.
Exactly, and they're trying to shortcut it. Yeah, for sure.
People who are artists and actors to their core don't want fame at all. They are so invested in that craft that they'd rather be poor and an actor than to like try and shortcut anything. You know what I mean? Because real actors and people who really want to put in the hard yards for acting are people who don't want any other thing other than be able to perform and create. It's like the fame and stuff is like the last thing they want.
Yeah.
So I feel like people who go through the reality TV route, and I'm not talking about you because I don't think that's you, but people who want to go to reality TV and then think that that's going to be the step to get them on screen as an actor.
You wish,
it's
brother.
It's the opposite.
You wish. I agree. I agree. I mean, it has definitely...
want fame. Go be famous.
No, I agree because I wouldn't have said yes to reality. I saw it as an opportunity. And you know what? I saw it also as a financial gain to help support my family. So
Amen, sis.
I think, get the bag, but it hasn't cost me anything other, maybe it's cost me my privacy a little bit, but I've, had a great platform throughout the years.
Yeah.
I've stayed the same person.
And also
I'm pretty humble still.
Yeah. And also you've rebranded out of reality TV, I feel.
I think so too.
You've really controlled you've really, paved the narrative for yourself instead of just like holding on to I'm a bachelorette, I'm a reality star.
Sometimes it comes back, but whatever.
But look what you're doing. You've gone back to youth work. That's who you are at your core.
Thank you.
You always wanted to do acting, so now you're acting. It's not like you're trying to seek fame. You're doing what feels good for you.
Well, it's like, I think we're both really good at keeping true to our values, obviously. And, regardless of what we do, whether it's pretty extreme or the opposite, we still stay so true to ourselves. And I think that makes a good person and it makes a good actor because you're not, you don't have that intensive ego it's not required in acting.
Yeah.
What they teach you really is that to have a healthy ego with acting. You'll get humbled very quickly, I think. Yeah.
Totally.
Have you ever been humbled in the industry?
Well, I think when I was younger, like I'm talking in my teens, when I thought about the industry, there was a part of myself that thought everything was going to happen quickly for me. I just believed in myself. I believed that things would just happen for me. And what I realized is the trajectory takes a lot of hard work if you don't get big moments. So I haven't had any spikes. I've had step by step and building blocks, right? No. So there's been nothing that has like really spiked my career in terms of reality as a platform. It's been me laying these blocks. And what I've come to terms with is that I know that hard work will pay off in the end. So if I just keep on building my blocks, I'm going to create, a reputation that people trust. And I'll be happy with the trajectory as one step at a time instead of seeing this massive like spike. And then because what happens a lot of the time is the spike, the higher you go, the quicker you fall. So like
Will
for me,
Smith actually uses that. Yeah. I don't know if this is relevant to how you would see your life, but I read Will Smith's book and he starts off with a story about his dad and them having a shop and having this wall, and the wall needed to be built straight away. It needed to be rushed, but then that wasn't as stable as the one that he built when he took it one brick at a time.
Yep.
Because he'd spent the time doing that one brick each day. It was done with precision. It was done with consideration, and it was done with consistency. And over time, the wall was built, but it was built stronger and it was much more effective. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's a metaphor for your life and how you see it, but I suggest maybe reading that little short story. It's right at the front of the book, but it really put things into perspective for me too. Like obviously I've had those big moments as well where it's been spiked, but in the background, I've always been ticking at those bricks and I guess planting the seeds and putting down the foundation and making sure that I'm always coming back to my foundation too when I need it. Because if you're not grounded, you're kind of up in this like lingo of this airspace that just doesn't feel good, right?
No.
It doesn't feel like you're like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't know if that makes sense, but
totally. No, it absolutely makes sense. I feel like when you talk about ego, I think in the beginning of my career, I had an ego. Interestingly enough, I look back on the start of my career and I cringe at that ego and I cringe at how I perceived myself.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of experience to get to a point where you trust yourself. You shouldn't trust yourself just in the beginning because you think you can do it. It takes experience. And I feel like I've got to the point where the ego doesn't play a part, but I believe in myself.
Yeah.
So I have pride instead of ego. And the pride is what is the whole representation thing and pushing for representation. It's not because I have an ego and going, I think I'm the best. It's because if I can do it and I can show that I can do it, that will inspire other people.
100%.
Like in our communities. So there's a difference. Like in the beginning as a young, 20-something-year-old, early 20s, thinking that I was a hot shot. Now I'm like, I look back and I'm like, oh, you knew fucking nothing.
Yes.
You absolutely didn't have what you thought you had. But I feel like it's taken a lot of work to get to this point.
Yeah.
And it's been like 10 years of constant little bricks that I feel confident now in what I can bring to the table. And it's not an ego. It's actually just like
I love that.
experience and pride.
Pride.
Yeah.
Pride is self-worth, isn't it? Like when you're
Totally.
proud of yourself, you're like, you value yourself. You believe that you're worthy of things. That is the energy that you're putting out to people and telling them that they're worthy too. I love that. Like it's all reciprocal. And I think a lot of good actors don't necessarily go into it for themselves. They go into it to share other people's story or do other characters justice and give them the platform. Like, you're not really ever playing yourself, you're playing other people. So you're doing it for other people, really, aren't you? Like,
what have been some of the most fun activities in acting school? A lot of the time you're laughing or crying or feeling these heightened emotions because you're playing like activities or games.
Me on a daily.
No, but I remember those moments of being like so full of energy because of the sort of acting 101 activities. So what are some of the stuff that you've enjoyed? Like, for instance, for me, I love improv. Improv for me was the funnest thing. Whenever that would be in the schedule for the week, I'd be like, yes, I can be a crazy lunatic in improv, let off some steam. You know, I really enjoyed that whole yes and thing.
Yeah, that has
you?
been the most fun. We've been working on Shakespeare at the moment, which has also been quite interesting, but I wouldn't say fun. I'd say quite challenging, which I always love a challenge. I love learning something new, like being so blind to it that it's completely new, and Shakespeare was that for me because I have no experience with working with Shakespeare. So that's been cool. It's like starting really like newborn and then growing into, you know, a teenager kind of thing with Shakespeare, and I've actually really enjoyed it. I would say my favourite part about acting is learning how to use my voice.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, we talk every week on the podcast, and, you know, I haven't had any negative things about my voice, but how I perceive myself to how the impression that I give out to other people is so different. And obviously we can't see ourselves on the daily, like we can't see how other people see us, but we have a right to use our voice. And I think I haven't really learnt that. I had a little bit of voice trauma, and you know this, that I went mute for a few years and I couldn't talk and communicate. So this has been such a liberating thing, the fact that I also get paid to talk when once upon a time I couldn't. And I think, God,
it's
my back...
empowering when you think about your voice as a tool to educate, to inspire. Your voice is everything.
My voice and learning to sing and sing in front of other people has been wonderful. Like I recently, you know, we had a Fine and Wine Dime night, which was just a bunch of cohort and staff getting together and just having a fun night and pizza and I think, you know, getting up and performing so randomly like at the open mic kind of thing was like fucking the most like healing for my inner child. You should have saw the joy in my face.
I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah, my face was like sore.
Watch that video whenever you feel upset.
Yeah, when I feel shitty. Yeah. I just felt like my younger self was just like, look at me, Mum. Look at me go.
And she was looking down. She'll be up there clapping like, hey, go my daughter.
Go, sis, go. It was the most liberating thing. And even now, like, my cohort are like, how much fun was that? And you were amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never heard those words, like, to any type of performance I've ever done. Like, even when I was doing The Bachelorette, and, you know, that didn't feel like a performance because it just felt like me. And, this has just felt like, I don't know, that's been the best thing, I guess, shedding the weight that I carry each day around my trauma and my experiences and not feeling like I have to let them define me. Obviously, I've always felt like that, but this is like truly a reflection of how much work I have done in class to let go and shed those shit things.
Yeah, yes.
And I've become like, I feel such a more empathetic and sympathetic person on the daily, but also at the same time selfish in a good way because I'm prioritizing my craft and I'm doing what I need to do, and that's also okay. And I've learnt to be okay with communicating to people like, right now I'm working on this and I can't give you my time, but once I have done this then you can have it. You know, like
boundaries.
Boundaries. And I always preach boundaries, but boundaries in another way, like relationship boundaries, like don't fucking swear at me, don't cross my line, don't disrespect me, etc.
Yeah.
But this is a different type of boundaries that I have never learnt that muscle, and learning that muscle has been really empowering for me to prioritize what I need to do right now in this time in order for me to be a successful actor or to be good in my eyes, because I don't give a fuck about anyone else really, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm like, actually on that's what I was going to say before. When someone says you should do something, what do you do? Do you do the opposite? When someone says you should?
It depends.
Yeah.
You know? It depends. I think
it depends on who it's coming from, right?
But you know what? I'm actually somebody who's really easily shaped by external factors.
Okay.
So if I hear things, it can be like, for instance, perfect example. Last night, I was like, I feel like I'm not as lean as I was a few months ago. Okay. And my partner goes, well, why don't you go for a run tomorrow morning? Because when you were running, you felt like you were lean.
Okay.
Hearing that made me get up this morning and go for a run.
And do you feel better for it?
Yeah, I felt great.
Yeah. But was there a part of you that was like, oh, like, why are you telling me that? Or there was nothing like that?
Not really, but I do have that, not in that scenario, but I do have that in other scenarios, especially when it comes to like family members, you know, when you know when it's like you're bitching about your family to someone and then they start saying like stuff about your family as well, and then you're like, wait, you can't say that about my family. Like, it affects you in a different way than when you say it about your family. So
well, that's what I mean, because you value what your partner thinks about you and how they see you. So obviously that would have been much easier. And not saying that you don't value your family, but you're always like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. So for instance, if you were having an argument with your brother and you're telling someone, I have this issue with my brother, and then they say, well, you should, keep them at arm's length. You're like,
no, don't tell me. No. Because for years, you know what people had told me is that I should go into acting years ago.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't like when people say I should do things, because I do the opposite. I'm like, I'm not a conformist straight away. I'll be like, who are you? Unless it's coming from someone I really value and I care about and I trust and I want their opinion and I want their advice, unless I ask you for it. Yeah. Who are you to tell me what I should do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get really defensive, and I do have that little bit of ego that I'm trying to get rid of like, oh, they're just suggesting something rather than they're just telling me something. Because if you tell me something, I'm not going to do it, because I want to have that autonomy and I want to have that choice and that voice to do it.
Yeah, tell me how you see the situation or how you feel, but don't say you should do this. Almost like a free-flowing opinion that doesn't have any constraints. It's more like, this is how I would do it. Or like, this is how I feel.
Your own opinion, oh, I personally think that you would be great at that. You know, like that should be how you inspire and how you should word it. And it does really come down to language. And there are people that can kind of cut the bullshit and cut the language and say, I think you should do that because it'll be boss, you know? Like I could probably say that to you and you wouldn't. You would be like, yeah or nay, you know what I mean? There would be no ego between us because we know each other so well. But so that's kind of what delayed my willingness to actually do acting, because someone and heaps of people said I should do this and I should do that and kept saying it. And you know what? This year I decided to do it because I wanted to do it.
Yes.
And I was ready to do it. And you know what? I have no regrets about doing it now. I thought that I should have done it sooner. And then I was like, actually, no. I am in the right frame of mind, right place. I've got the right support. I'm doing it where I should do it, in Melbourne. Yeah. And I'm in the perfect time in my life to be absorbing that information. You know what I mean? So it's like everything works out if you trust it. And when things don't work out, there's a reason to why it's not, and it means that it will happen again later, or something will happen and it will divert you onto the right path. You just, you've got to trust the environment. Oh my God, I sound like a witchy fucking woo-woo person right now.
No. You know what? Environment is everything. Environment is everything.
And optimism, like being hopeful.
Yeah. But what I've realised is that environment is everything. What you keep protected and sacred is everything.
Yeah.
Because I notice this every time I go home. I step back into my old life, my old environment. It is completely different.
Yeah.
It's completely different. And what I've come to terms with is over the last 15 to 20 years, I've built my life to be a certain way that I live my life as, right? Since I've moved away for boarding school.
Yeah.
When I step back into this different world, I'm not saying it's any worse, any better. When I step back into this different world, the environment starts to eat me up. I even become drained from that environment.
Yeah.
It's a completely different experience. And the reason is because I've made hundreds of thousands of choices to create this world over here.
And you're
that
safe
is so
there.
so far from this world.
Yeah.
So like environment is everything. As soon as I step back in there, I'm affected by that environment immediately.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, environment, it is so important to protect what you have and what is around you, what the energy you're letting in.
I really agree with that. I think that is...
Even how people speak.
Yeah. I wouldn't have worked this hard to have this life, to do what I'm doing and love what I do if I hadn't made those 100 choices in my life. I made a choice. And I think I try to preach that to the kids. Like, you have a choice to be here and when they're in boarding school too. And when I'm working with other people, and it's the same with acting school. They always say to us, you have a choice to do something. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Just say no. And I actually had to say no recently because I was not ready. I wasn't feeling fulfilled by the work we were doing. And I just said no to my teacher. I said, look, I don't feel like I'd be putting up good work, so I don't want to do that. And I want to go back and do the research and do the work, come back and I'll do it again. And she was like, great. That's what we're trying to teach you, to have choice, to make those choices, to build your life to where you want to get, to fulfill your passions, feel the love, enjoy it, appreciate it, feel joy, for fuck's sake, because we don't really talk about joy that much, do we? And then, live a fucking fulfilling, happy, healthy, healing life.
Well, that's the exact epitome of life, is the choices you make. That's what your whole body is made up of, and your experience is made up of the choices you make. So that is your life in the end. Make good ones. Sometimes you'll fail and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have time for today.
I know. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for listening to First Things First.
If you love what you hear, leave us a little rating or a little review. And if you want us to cover anything on the pod, reach out via our socials.
My handle is at Brooke.Blurton and Maddie's is at It's Maddie Mills. And go check out the Nova Podcast at Nova Podcast Official. See you next week.
Catch ya.